Rick, how you doing, baby?
I'm doing well, Keith. How are you?
Man, I'm so good.
Yeah.
So good to see you.
It's good to see you, and you're much better dressed than you were the last time you were on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Oh, it's
Next time, can you tell me that off camera?
It's such a relief when he dresses properly. I'm sure it gives you all a better feeling about the show and our credibility.
Oh, thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You know what?
We don't wear jewelry on our hands. Have you noticed that?
You know what?
Oh, right.
You know the name of today's show?
Yeah, I do.
Troublemakers. How to stop being one.
Oops. Okay, so I got a target on my back, eh?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you know if you're a troublemaker?
It's a good question. In my book, a troublemaker is not just how you see other people and what they do, but also how to identify one in yourself. So for me, I'm being a troublemaker if I am complaining about someone or life, if I am judging others, those are blaming. Those are some examples of me being a troublemaker.
I think we can add one other one that's really important, and that is, and this is, I think, happening all over America now, is being cynical about
Yes.
people's good intentions. Instead of just accepting people for doing what they're doing and maybe being a little appreciative, we tend to have more cynical view of the reason why they're doing it. We ascribe to them motives that may not exist just because we think that's the way it is, or nobody is like that, or we feel badly about our own lives and project on other people.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's what we would be doing.
Right. I totally agree. So let me give you an example of how I've been a troublemaker in the past.
Okay, then I'll show you one of mine.
Okay.
Other than what we just witnessed at the opening of the show.
I still haven't got an apology about that.
I'm sorry.
See, he normally gives an apology off camera.
Off camera, that's right.
I want a public apology. Can you say I'm sorry again?
Because my ego is so hurt when I apologize.
That's right.
I'm sorry, my brother.
I
I
appreciate
was just jiving though. I didn't mean anything by it.
Okay, I appreciate it. So, an example of me being a troublemaker was my recent trip to Tennessee. I talked about that a few shows ago. And in that trip, I'm constantly I used to constantly look for ways to improve other people. How my brother could be different, how this server could have been better, and I say it in the way I say it. It's not just like, hey, listen, may I share something with you? And you can, if you prefer I did, just tell me, it's cool. And just accepting that and not my energy not shifting because they said no to my coaching or feedback or correction, which is maybe disguised as, which is really criticism. So that would be an example of me trying to, being a troublemaker. I would really be trying to improve everybody around me. You need to do this better. The energy, the intent, the tone, all of it would be negative. And it will be coming from a place or an ego identity of being superior.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have that in spades. I've just been, all my life, up until a few years ago, very critical of people and critical of their motives. And so when I was talking about cynicism, that really was where I was living, in cynicism. And one clear example of that was I could never leave an argument or leave a conversation without having a last word. I always felt like if I said one more thing, by God, they'd believe me and that they would do what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And so I realized late in my life that that's creating a lot of trouble not only for others but for myself. Mm-hmm. Second area, I find in things like what I call physics, where let's say cars come close to one another in the freeway, or something falls on me, and the car driver or the person who caused their cup to fall on me are completely innocent, completely blameless, but I take it personally. So my cynicism, my taking things personally, and the need to have the last word has made me a troublemaker most of my life.
Wow. What has it done for the relationships that you've been in?
Well, can you guess? I've been divorced 14 times. Well, seriously though, it's like that. I mean, if people feel like they can't be heard, and that all you're interested in doing is overriding
And being
their
right.
feeling and being right, there's no room for love. I think both of us share the idea that you have a choice between, being loved and loving,
Right.
or being right.
Right, exactly. You can't be both.
Can't be both usually. I mean, there's a way to make your position understood.
Right.
And that's a personal responsibility I think we have to ourselves to make our feelings known to others, especially those who are close and matter to us. But I also think that ends with the other person's equal right to have their say. And then the art of life is trying to balance those. The art of relationship is trying to balance those in a way that's civil, respectful, and in a way that maximizes each side's position, if possible.
I love it. I really, really like that. Being a troublemaker, I look back and up until like 3.5 years ago, I've been a troublemaker my whole life. Not in a way like I'm robbing banks or not paying the newspaper boy for dropping off my newspaper or kicking over lemonade stands. No, nothing like that. But in the way of I didn't bring loving kindness to the spaces that I came into. I didn't brighten people's lives in a consistent basis. Now, I feel like I've done a lot of good in serving other people. I've done that. But I also have to acknowledge the troublemaking that I did along the way, too. When people didn't live up to my expectations, there was a lot of judgment there. There was non-acceptance that was there. There was making them feel bad or less than for not keeping a commitment, for not honoring realizing their goals or honoring their promises. Like I brought all of that to the table too. Athletes, oh man, I judged the hell out of them.
Yeah.
Just the hell, like out of their lives and their choices. How could you have all that talent and squander it away? Look how many opportunities I've had and I've squandered away people's goodwill, faith in me, stuff like that. But my ego wouldn't let me see the contradiction or the hypocrisy. So in those ways, I've been a troublemaker most of my life. It wasn't until I really, over the last 3.5 years, that I really started to do a deep dive into what acceptance meant, what does unconditional love meant. And what brought me to that point? Suffering. As I mentioned before, I went through a breakup. It impacted the business. Half the clients went into a different direction and it impacted revenue. And so it was in that moment that I said, man, let me just do a deep dive on living the principles of ToBeRe, which is thanking everybody who's been a part of it thus far and to this point, wishing them well in the new path that they've chosen to take, being grateful for every contribution they made every single day that they were a part of it and every membership, payment that they made, and being totally wishing them nothing but goodness and hoping that they have a really peaceful journey. It was in that moment that I started really living those principles and having the opportunity to show that I was going to live those principles, that I really started to grow and change, and I stopped being a troublemaker. I mean, it took suffering for me to get there. Now, what I'm more interested in is not needing suffering to teach me that. To be on the path on my own without having life to be like, you know what? It's about time for another lesson. Like I don't need life to give me any more lessons. I'm aware, I'm keenly aware of them, and if they come, I'm ready for them. But I don't need life to do me any special favors.
It's the proverbial and figurative 2x4 to the head. Right?
I've had a few of
those classic bones.
That's
and
right.
Your whole life gets shaken
totally.
up. That happened to me too. I guess my big start down this path was with my divorce in '08. And I look back on things that happened and I was just appalled. I am just appalled at the way that I handled some things. And I am very disappointed in myself. And I think the idea of why I did them, to protect my ego, was the thing that set me down the path of questioning whether it's necessary to even protect ego. And the conclusion after studying it for a long time is that it's not. There's nothing.
No.
There's nothing to protect.
It's a dead end with a lot of suffering.
Dead end with a lot of suffering. Well said. Yeah, it's exactly right, Keith. And I think that we're at our worst when we're trying to protect the ego and we're trying to do things that we think are going to enhance our reputation or our standing in your eyes or each other's eyes, when the only real inquiry has to be, am I living my full potential? Am I doing it in a way that's compassionate and kind with the most consideration for other people? And am I serving others? And those are the things that really have to be in the forefront before the ego can back off. Now, one other little point that I think is important, and that is no matter how much you study, how much you try to implement, how disciplined you are in your practice, it never ends. You don't suddenly get to the point like you're cured, like your cold stops, you don't stop coughing. You never get to that point because you're a human being.
Right.
So every day the ego shows up, and why is she doing that to me? And I deserve this, and all that starts in your head. You've got to remember, you're never going to be cured of it. You have to have a way to manage it.
Right.
And the managing part of it is the discipline of the things that we were talking about, the journaling, visualization of the kinds of things and the kind of people you want to be,
The people you surround yourself with.
people you surround yourself with, the meditation that you do, the calm intent for peace for yourself and for all sentient beings, all living things. Those are the kinds of things typically that will help us manage the ego, but the ego is always going to cause you to be, and has caused me and Keith to be troublemakers. So it's always there. You know, every day you got a little chance to be a troublemaker, or you can contribute in a positive way to your own life and to the lives of others. Choice.
You know, if I was watching this podcast and I kind of see, okay, here are the traits, you guys' traits of being a troublemaker, what makes you one, I would try to look at myself and see, okay, in what ways am I a troublemaker? And again, if you're not bringing peace, loving kindness to the space, then consider the troublemaker thing may be going on. Judging others, the whole 9 yards. I want to know, why would I be a troublemaker? Because I would think that, okay, maybe I know that what I'm doing isn't the best, isn't the best behavior, or I would be unknowing in the behavior. In any case, what would be the common thread of me being a troublemaker? And it would all come down to feeding the ego. It would be all about strengthening it. Mm-hmm. And it shows up in either I'm judging and blaming someone, or I'm complaining. In judging and blaming, I'm superior to the other person. Mm-hmm. Strengthens ego. If I'm complaining, then I'm playing the victim. Again, I'm strengthening ego. So it's that identity that is the payoff. The ego gets to survive, be amplified. So that is what I don't want. So the next question I would have is, how do I counter that? How do I relieve myself of being a troublemaker, causing suffering for others and myself? It's the same answer for almost everything. And you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's practicing gratitude. Yeah. When I'm being grateful, it's impossible for me to be a troublemaker. If I'm at work and I'm looking at the boss who comes in and maybe they don't value my work as I would like them to, or they got another demand and it's time for me to leave and go home for another commitment, if I practice compassion and recognize this person is probably hurting, this person is unaware or not even concerned with the impact that this demand that they're making on me is not kind. But I got compassion because this person isn't practicing being kind, isn't practicing being thoughtful. So if I'm not judging them and I'm grateful to have a job, grateful that I have this awareness, grateful that I have the opportunity to send them loving kindness, if I'm practicing gratitude even in those circumstances, then it means that I won't go off and gossip and gossip to my coworkers about it. Get home and bring that dark cloud with me home, complaining to my family about it. Like, none of that's happening. So whatever this event that happens that is not one that I prefer, by accepting it and practicing gratitude, then the opportunity for being a troublemaker dies right then, and I don't poison the space for other people.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And the experience is that lightens your heart. That makes you feel, I think, much more connected to your true self.
Yes, it really does, and I get to experience peace rather than any kind of suffering. So it's man, I'm just
It's
so grateful to be there now.
Yeah, it's kind of like a vicious cycle, because the more the ego gets, the more that it wants.
Absolutely.
And once you start doing that game, you're always going to be playing catch up. You're always going to be behind what the ego wants. You're going to have to go one more level to keep up the appearances and to keep up this idea that you're superior, that you're impervious to harm or better than other people.
Right, exactly. So, what's something that you have found? I got a better question.
Okay.
So, if you were practicing gratitude,
Yeah.
you mentioned you alluded to your marriage and the divorce. If you were practicing gratitude during that period, and it's still, the direction that you both chose to go was to separate and no longer be married. If you were practicing gratitude during that period, how could it have been different?
Well, a couple of things. One is that the marriage was good for a lot of years. There were a lot of things that were terrific. There's a lot of great qualities that I loved about her, still do. And a lot of things that we did together that were priceless and have created wonderful memories. And those are the things that you could focus on that would keep you, I think, a little bit closer to being grateful about having had the experience of that other person. That's one. Secondly, if I had been grateful about the fact that I had my own life and now my own freedom to do whatever I wanted to,
Right.
that would also have created a sense of really, really powerful detachment from the bad things that have happened. So if you look at it like kind of a scale, the more things you can line up on the side of being positive and good and important in your life against the negatives, the better off it is for you and the easier it is for you to detach from the idea that it's all terrible and that you're getting killed or you're going to lose your financial stability or whatever your theory is about how bad it is.
So, if you practice gratitude, that wouldn't have happened, and you'd have been more loving, more kind, more understanding, more compassionate, and you would have countered what troublemaking behavior? That would have countered what? Judging, gossip, blame. What would that have countered?
Yeah, all of that. Plus, I think the idea of trying to hurt, deliberately trying to even the playing field. I'm hurt. Damn it, you're going to get hurt back, and I'm going to do it by saying these terrible things to our mutual friends.
Sure.
And by embellishing them as well. Telling things that were outright exaggerations to make myself look good.
Wow. Strengthen the ego.
Strengthen the ego, yeah. So I came across to my friends, I was trying to paint this picture of her being the problem and me being above it all and me being the knight in shining armor doing everything right. And that wasn't the case. It was totally mutual. Or I'm sure everybody has a different perspective on what happens, but I was the cause of much of the problem.
Right. And even if you're the saint in the relationship, if you go out and gossip about it or blame or complain, then you're playing a role as a troublemaker as well.
Yes, absolutely. And that whole concept of being a troublemaker, remember, is a choice. It comes back to making the decision about whether you want to go down that road or whether you want to go down a different road that would eliminate your own personal suffering, avoid other people from suffering from your acting out, and also allow you a sense of inner peace and a sense of purpose that's detached from the negativity that this created, that this situation that you're trying to avoid created.
And Rick, thinking back to my troublemaking days, especially when it came to gossip or blame, the gossip that wasn't really my thing, but the blaming and judging, it was huge. I guess I would tell a few friends about it. So yeah, I guess some gossip was there too. But what's interesting about it is that there was a period there where I felt like, okay, I know I shouldn't, the right thing is to not to talk about it, to let it go. But the ego pull would be so strong that's like, let me just tell this little bit.
That's right.
And there you go.
Yeah,
it's slip and slide, baby.
That's it.
You are going down that dark hole, and that would be it. I mean, like it's like, oh, I just gotta tell somebody
That's
this,
right.
you know. Just one thing about this other person's life or relationship, and you know, even if it has nothing to do with you, just to jump into that mud, you know.
Get a load of this, Keith. You're not going to believe this.
Exactly.
Can you believe that this guy did?
Yeah.
You know,
the ego pull, man, is strong. I mean,
because the payoff for that, as you pointed out, the payoff for that is to say, in so many words, implicitly, I would never be as foolish, as stupid, as without money, without judgment.
right, they had it all. What were they thinking?
I would never be that foolish to do what they did. I'm above it. I'm superior, and look at how great I am. And you are too. And by sharing this story,
We're better.
we both can beat up on this poor bastard.
Yeah, we're both better. And all you're doing is being a troublemaker.
Yeah, well, you're, and what's advanced, right? At the end of the day, have you made anybody's life better? Have you made your own better? Have you made yourself more peaceful? Have you helped anybody? And the answer to all of those, of course, is no. So what's the dang point?
Exactly. Totally, man. Well, so again, if you take nothing from the show, look at yourself and, you know, identify whether or not you're being a troublemaker. And we all at one time or another have been one. It's part of the human condition. I mean, we have. And then ask yourself, okay, am I committed to doing something about it? And we've identified the most effective way to do something about it, which is practicing gratitude, and then begin doing that. So you get some leverage over it, keep ego at bay, and start to cultivate peacefulness and kindness in your life.
Yeah, and I would add to that you must cultivate a method for yourself of detaching from things that are negative, detaching from things that are hurtful, and just getting used to the idea that you don't have to respond to everything that the world throws at you.
Or comment on it.
In a way that's vicious or hurtful to other people or even to yourself. You can just let it go. Okay, yeah, she doesn't love me anymore. Or okay, my kid flunked out. Okay, my kid's using drugs. That doesn't mean you don't take action. You do.
But you take intelligent action.
You take intelligent action, and then you detach from outcome because it's beyond you. It's all you can do is control your own reaction to it, and you don't make the thing worse by gossiping about it or making the other person wrong or trying to look good because of whatever it is that's shown up for you.
Man, that's such good advice, Rick. It really
well,
is,
You're
man.
the dude. You got me going.
It really is, man. Thank you for a great show, man.
I love you, Keith.
And thank you for being a gift in my life.
Oh man, we are a tight team. Thanks,
Okay.
man.
I love you, man.
I love
Thank you.